Hello and welcome to Ancient Assyrian Props and Costumes. I'm Donald Barker and today we'll be talking about the Ancient Assyrian long tunics. Rightio, before we get started, I'll just explain a bit about the current costume that I'm wearing. And as you can see, I've got an Ancient Assyrian soldier's helmet, fiberglass, with felt lining inside, very solid, and sword strap, sheath, or scabbard, and the sword, short sword. I'm wearing a short tunic as my foundation layer. On top of that, I've got my broad belt, and this is my wraparound shawl. I'm also wearing stockings, black stockings with boots and shin guards. Now, this outfit you'd say is a 7th century BC outfit, and here with my mace, this can also be an officer's outfit. We can get into the actual long tunics. Now, what's a long tunic? The ancient Assyrian long tunics were worn by nobility, were worn by royal courtesans, were worn by eunuchs and other people who were associated, generally speaking, with the palace and were of the upper class. And one of the reasons why I think these were popular garments for nobility was because they didn't expose the legs. And what I mean by that is it's a much more formal dress. So formality was a big deal. Etiquette within the palace was a big deal back in ancient Assyrian times, and I'm sure there would have been etiquette and protocol for palaces right across the ancient Near East. And this, I think, goes back to very ancient times, as in the late Bronze Age, where you had the Club of Powers and the different kingdoms and the etiquettes that were established at each royal court. So that was a tradition that the ancient Assyrians passed down to the later Neo-Assyrians. So it was about everyone knowing their place and what the protocol and procedures were, and to act accordingly. And anyone not acting according to the protocols would be sticking out like a sore thumb, and they would be retributed or punished according to their particular offences. Royal tunics, or long tunics in general, pretty much go down to the ankle, and they're usually fringed at the bottom as well. Tassels usually are the way to go for fringes on the bottom of long tunics. So what's going on with a long tunic? Besides its status symbol, because obviously you're using more material to make it, materials such as linens and other types of fabrics would have been pretty expensive, especially considering they would have been hand woven. So they were a prestige item that marked a person's status within the ancient Assyrian hierarchy, social structure. And you tend to see elaborate borders on the shoulders, elaborate borders around the arms, and at the bottom of the actual tunics as well. So here you've got the flower border on the long tunics. They would have been further down. It would have given a nice decorative effect to the tunics. But I also think that they actually had a function. These borders actually had a function. And what I'm starting to notice is, for example, if you make your tunics out of two separate pieces, as in front, a front piece and a back piece, and then join them together at the seams, the the seams would run along the shoulders and down under the arms and all the way down to the ankle. So that extra strip of border that you see that goes along the shoulder would have acted as a reinforcement for the stitching and hidden the actual seam from sight, and also along the sides here too. Not to mention the borders across the arms would have given much more strength to minimize gripping or tearing and stretching as well. Same with the bottom of the fabrics, with the bottom of the tunics, because if you were to overstep or it would get caught on a branch or something, you wouldn't just rip your tunic all in one go down the seams. So I think it also adds an element of strength to the overall construction of the long tunics. Now, tassels. You see tassels on the reliefs. Sometimes what looks to be tassels on the back, sometimes on the front. I tend to think that they would be at the front. That way the actual wearer would be able to get to them and be able to untie should they want to take off their tunic for any reason. So I reckon it's a T-split with some cord that has tassels on the end and is wrapped and put into place. Okay, so let's get into the actual tunics and what I have here. So I've got two different templates that I use to construct these tunics, and they're all made according to my specific measurements, which I had to pretty much measure out and make templates, my own templates, because there was nothing that I could really go off. So that blue one there was the first one that I ever made, and to be honest, when I made this one, it was more of a V-neck front and back. Then that V-neck design, I took off the reliefs from Ashurbanipal's hunt seams, and also the embroidery at the front. Actually, the chest plate at the front, the whole design is based off those Ashurbanipal hunting reliefs. And the borders that you get are all trim that you can buy from, well, here in Sydney you can buy from Spotlight. To be honest, I couldn't find anything that was purely Assyrian for trim. It's actually really hard to find something that's gonna be pretty similar to ancient Assyrian designs. So what I managed to get was like a gold and black trim, which was ancient Greek key design, and then in between that is a floral Assyrian flower pattern, but it's actually an Indian border. So it's funny because you got Greek trim, Indian trim, and then Greek trim again. And to be honest, what we need to make excellent ancient Assyrian costumes are a trim that's more Middle Eastern in flavour. And so between Greece and between India, obviously, is the ancient Near East, and they're the types of designs that we should be going for, but they're not very easy to find. So that was my first tunic that I made by buying material from Spotlight, buying trim from Spotlight, and seeing exactly how we could put together a tunic from stuff that was pretty accessible to the common person. So after I did that, it gave me a good sense of what to look for. And the first one that I actually made, you can see it's more of a belt shape, and it tends to flare out towards the bottom. And the reason I did that was to give myself plenty of leg space to be able to spread, to do some spreads and not have to twinkle toe around everywhere. Because what I find is This second tunic that I made specifically to instructions that were in a book called Ancient Egyptian and Ancient Mesopotamian Clothing, and she recommended that the bottom be 20 inches, and to be honest, it's really, you can wear it and it sits nice. I have to admit, it sits nice, but for leg room and walking when you're out and about, it's very restrictive. Even bending down, it tends to get a bit tight, whereas those ones with the bell shapes are much more comfortable to walk around in. The advantage of this particular style, so it's pretty much straight down from the hips, is the fact that when you wrap your shawls around, your large king shawls, they don't crumple. The extra excess material around you doesn't crumple and cause those ripples. It's nice and flat all the way around. So when you put those wraparound shawls, it doesn't gather the material at the bottom from the long tunic. So this one is actually material that's a fabric that was made out of linen and cotton. It's a 50% linen, 50% cotton base, and this has complete trim. So although it's all white, there is full trim along the neckline, along the shoulders, a double trim around the arms, the sleeves of the arm. It's got the chest part too, which is also stitched on. So you've got the long side ones as well, and at the bottom there's two. There's another two bands. Now, this is a very beautiful tunic to wear. It's so comfy. The fabric feels very nice on. The only issue I have with this again is the restriction in movement from only having 20 inches of space to move in, so you can't really take large steps if you had to, and the fact that it's relatively see-through. So yeah, if I'm wearing a singlet underneath, or I'm wearing underwear underneath, all that will show through if I was just wearing this long white tunic by itself, and that to me is a bit of a downer. And although it would be nice to wear these white tunics, their maintenance is really high, which I guess would have been one of the factors why they would have worn them, because once you sweat, the collar will darken, the sleeves will darken. Anywhere that's prone to sweating, I guess the back will also start to darken up over time. So that's one of the reasons of why I haven't actually put trim around it, is because I want to be able to wash this after I wear it once. Within about half an hour or an hour afterwards, I want to wash them and get them nice and clean so that they're ready to wear again later on. So they're high maintenance. And if you're going to be making ancient Assyrian costumes for a whole group of people, I would tend to avoid using good quality fabrics, especially like this one, which is 50% linen, 50% cotton blend, because it's an expensive fabric and it requires a lot of washing to keep them pristine, clean, white. So I would avoid very much pure white colors for ancient Assyrian garments, only because of the maintenance factor and the wearability. Because you don't want to sweat them out and then wear them again and sweat them out again. You'll start to see stains that will be very hard to remove out of these. So let's move on to this tunic. This is one of my favorite tunics. This fabric, I'm not quite sure exactly what type of fabric it is. It's got a bit of stretch to it, but its color was what attracted my eye, and it's very similar actually to traditional Assyrian Tiariana clothing, which we call Jullat Khumara, and the fabric is very similar in color to that. That's why I wanted to make a long king's tunic out of a color of a fabric that was very similar. And purple, because it's got that purple tinge to it, we know that purple was a color of royalty as well. And these borders, they're embroidered borders on red linen, pure linen, and they were very expensive to get. So you imagine I had to pay in excess of $4 for each rosette. So you imagine $4, $4, $4, $4, $4, $4, $4, $4, $4, $4, $4, $4, $4, $4, $4, $4, $4, and I got a whole piece of fabric that had embroidered rosettes on it, and it's really expensive, and it's not a cheap alternative to that trim. But I do think that you get a much more authentic design, because they're actually embroidering on the red patterns based on ancient Assyrian designs. So yeah, it's very expensive though. So this cut, the particular style of cut that I've used here, is the same as that white one. I'm still thinking about what type of chest piece to put on this, whether it'll be fabric. And the thing is, if I use those metal plates, hammer them out and put them on, what happens is then the garments become difficult to wash, because you've got metal parts moving within the washing machine, which is I guess not a great idea. So moving on to the next one. This is cotton, 100% cotton. It's a thick cotton, and I had to actually dye this fabric myself. So it was black and white, and buying dye, I put it in a big pot. We're talking about a huge pot for cooking. Think of something along the lines of pots of dokhwa that we use to make dokhwa in. So what I would do is fill the water up, bring it to a boil, add the dye in, and then add the fabric in there to get this particular color. And I did that with this red one too. This red one was white and black as well, and I had to dye all these. This was red linen, and this is real blue linen. So what I've done here is I've used the excess material that I had left over on the inside, so you can see it's a different color design, and I've used that for the outside to make the trim. And here I've gone back. You notice that was my first tunic, and after making these two and finding the restrictions that I have in my movement, while they look stunning on, there's just not much room for movement. I ended up going back to making a bell shape, and I personally think that in ancient times they would have had tunics that would have allowed for movement, because these are so restrictive. It's to the point where if you're a nobleman and you're wearing a tunic as restrictive as this in your movement, then I'm telling you, you're going to need assistance to do everything. Like every little task will be so difficult. Just picking up bending down to pick up something from the ground is really hard. Whereas these give you total freedom of movement. You can step, skip, jump, run in these bell-shaped long tunics. And yeah, this is one of my favorites. So I've got cotton here. I've got a fabric that looks like Jullat Tiariana. that purpley, nice purpley color. And I've got this white fabric that's 50% cotton, 50% linen, which is beautiful to wear, very light, just a bit too see-through for my liking. And then you've got this one. This is just regular fabric, nothing special from Spotlight.